read it now that Matt is being challenged. Can we just, Matt, or do you feel threatened by what Dan Dibley just said? He thinks that you're ripping off his information somehow on this S2 stuff simply because we had Brock Purdy's quarterback coach on in December.
Yeah, well, major apologies if I did that. I would love to get your guys' S2 scores and just kind of see where you rank. What percentile the two of you fall into?
I would say Dibs is pretty high because he's pretty reactive, Matt, and I think you just experienced it actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to see a pre-coffee and a post-coffee score.
Oh.
I think there would be a dramatic swing there.
You think? I mean, are you looking at me at the YouTube right now as I'm jiggling my leg and my jaw is...
What do you mean? What do you mean, Matt? What do you mean?
S2 Cognition.
Yeah, exactly. So, for those of you who are like, what the hell is S2 Cognition? This is a process that is being used for NFL quarterbacks and draftees to sort of measure the way that they are able to process information, survey a field, react to what they're seeing. Now, this guy, Brandon Alley, he said this. He could not give out Brock Purdy's exact score because this is privileged information.
Thank you.
But said that his score was in the mid-90s, which is where players like Drew Brees have scored, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, all up in the mid to high 90s. He said we consider anything above the 80th percentile to be elite. And again, Purdy was in the 90s. He was asked about Trey Lance, said, can't give you the exact number, but he, quote, scored well. He's not in the Brock Purdy range, but he didn't score poorly. So, with all of this said, is this S2 Cognition deal going to be the guiding force for teams going forward, Matt?
Yeah, I think so. It's so predictive of future success. In fact, when I was reporting the story, and maybe it took me 2 weeks to report it, and in that span, they went from 13 NFL clients to 14. So they're adding teams all the time, and I got to figure that, and I don't know the answer to this, but I have to figure that the 16 teams that aren't on board are doing something similar with a different company, or they're getting this type of information elsewhere, because it seems like if you're not getting that, that's a fireable offense at this point, because, I mean, Brock Purdy is really the kind of the poster boy for it. Not really, doesn't stand out in any of the traditional ways, but he did stand out on this test. And, it started to explain why he had that immediate success. I mean, we saw it right off the bat in that Miami game where you expected there to be sort of a stumble with the offense. Jimmy Garoppolo, the veteran, goes out. Brock Purdy, the rookie, goes in. And that was the thing that was most apparent, is that they didn't stumble at all. It was the same pace. In fact, you could argue that the offense even got better under Purdy in the ensuing game. So it totally makes sense, and you can kind of see it on the field.
Do we know that the 49ers were aware of his S2 Cognition test before they drafted him, or did they just kind of stumble into the fact that they drafted a guy who graded very high on this newfangled test?
I don't know the answer to that. They are not one of the 14 teams that contract with S2.
Oh.
However, they do work with Brock Purdy's throwing coach, Will Hewlett.
Will Hewlett.
I think you guys talked to him.
That's just it.
Is affiliated with S2, and that's so. It wouldn't surprise me if they caught wind of the S2 score in one shape or form.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Okay, so Matt, first of all, how about this? Is Brock Purdy having surgery later this week? What's going on? Do we know?
I'll know that in about an hour. We're talking to John Lynch here in Indianapolis at 2 o'clock local time, and the 15 minutes or so we have with him will be monopolized by Brock Purdy talk. So hopefully we'll find that out. But it's bad news when you show up at the doctor's office and the doctor says, "Oh, there's still too much swelling in the elbow to do the surgery. Let's wait a little longer." So, the longer you wait, the longer his return to the field is going to be. So it's going to be all sorts of questions about that, but also how does that affect the quarterback timeline? And does that affect whether you go after a more high-profile veteran quarterback in free agency, given the fact that it doesn't look like Brock Purdy is going to participate much, certainly in the spring, and probably not the summer as well. So these are all questions in the offing for John Lynch.
How much will their free agent pursuit determine what they feel about Trey Lance?
I mean, I think it tells you everything. One thing we already know, and this applies to Brock Purdy as well, is that these two guys have gotten hurt quite a bit in the small amount of time that they've been starters. Purdy had the rib oblique injury. We all know Trey Lance's injury history, but two guys that have been hurt a lot in their scant amount of starts. So, I think it's not just one veteran that they need to bring in. I think that this is the team that needs to consider a veteran plus, going the Purdy route, looking at those S2 scores and seeing who the next Brock Purdy is, and then picking that guy up at some point in the third, fourth, fifth, or sixth, or seventh rounds this year. Because one lesson that the 49ers keep learning over and over is that you can't have too many quarterbacks.
So here's one problem that I see for them, though, Matt, which is that you go out on the market, you maybe want to be aggressive signing a quarterback, but the quarterback has to want to come. And who in their right mind would be like, yeah, I want to join this crowded quarterback room with young, cheap guys, one who has, the draft capital, the other one who's got the history of this. Like, who wants to join this? Because there's a high likelihood that if they're healthy, you're not playing.
Well, all John Lynch needs to do to convince that quarterback is just kind of put up the medical history on a board and say, right, hey, I think there's probably a great chance that you're going to get in at some point. You might not be a 17-game starter, but look what we have here. I mean, I don't think that there's any way we're talking about a high-profile free agent, but I don't know. Like, if Matt Ryan gets cut by the Colts, I would think that would be a good spot for him. I call it the Andy Dalton line. You've heard of the Mendoza line. This is the Dalton line of that's the kind of caliber quarterback we're talking about here. And frankly, those guys don't have any real starting prospects in this league. Their road to starting is for a guy to get injured. And boy, that scenario seems very plausible when it comes to the 49ers.
And when you talk about that plausible scenario, have you gotten a sense to why the 49ers think that their quarterbacks get injured all the time? I know Kyle Shanahan came out and said it's not him, it's just maybe bad luck. Has there been more of a deep dive from a team standpoint as to why in every year but one, Kyle Shanahan's had to use multiple guys?
I don't think there has been. I mean, that's another question for Lynch today, but to their point that these injuries have come in all sorts of different ways. Going back to that Garoppolo ACL in Kansas City. I mean, he was scrambling on a play and put his shoulder into a Chiefs defender. The one that I think is preventable is Trey Lance. The week before that game. In Chicago, it seemed like Lance was getting too many carries. The year before that, his first start against Arizona, it just felt like this guy was getting hit too many times and that he wouldn't be able to hold up. And lo and behold, he didn't that year or the year after. So to me, that one is obvious. Just don't run him as much as you have. This should be an off season where they're basically forcing Trey Lance to play the traditional version of the offense, the one that Garoppolo and Brock Purdy play. I think it benefits everybody in the long run. But the other ones, I don't know. I mean, look at the Garoppolo and the Purdy injury. Very different scenarios, and different body parts getting hurt. So I don't know if there is a rhyme or reason. Obviously, the big rhyme or reason is don't allow your quarterback to get hit as much. I think that's a ubiquitous rule across the league.
All right, Matt, your skills are not like just readily evident when you walk in the room, but we thought your processing of this interview was elite.
Incredible.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's one thing is that you can't practice this test. You have it or you don't.
That's right.
And you don't get better every time that you take the test. You're pretty much what you are. So I guess I was just kind of elite right off the bat.
Yeah, you did it, and we're looking for you to do it again in 45 minutes and get some real info out of John Lynch, okay?
Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to yell at him.
Yeah.
Grill him.
I'm going to throw my shoe at him at the podium.
Throw some coffee at him. Yeah, throw your coffee at him and see how he reacts, what his S2 cognition is.
I'll do it for you guys.
Thank you.
I love it, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anytime, guys.
All right, there he goes. That's the great Matt Barrows. He's live in Indy.
Yeah.
He's getting ready to attack John Lynch in 45 minutes.